You know where you are!
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 436. My name is Brando. Welcome to the podcast, the Rocket. Oh, excuse me, I don't want to say that. The Metal Hall of Fame, because you're doing it right. We're gonna get to that because it's part of So the CEO and the founder of the Metal Hall of Fame, Pat Gesualdo. And am I saying your last name properly?
Sure are. Yep.
So I guess I was alluding to my clever tie into everything, because Happy New Year, first of all.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you and all the listeners. Let's hope
You're-
we're off to a great start for all of us.
And my segue, and I guess it kind of leaked out of my brain, was it was your New Year's resolution to right every wrong of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because you're doing a pretty good job so far, especially with this year's inductees, people who deserve to be in the other one, but we got the Metal Hall of Fame going. That's doing it right.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And just so everybody knows, they really don't like us too much. And they called me up and said as much. So
Wow. All right. Well, we'll get to that because we're going to talk about this year's ceremony, January 24th at the Marriott Delta Grove in Anaheim, California. And Eddie Trunk is not only hosting the thing, he's being inducted, and deservedly so, an ambassador medal. And just as a radio guy, just growing up listening to him, he deserves it. And just some of the other inductees: Mick Mars, Sebastian Bach, Tim Ripper Owens, Penelope Spheris, Biohazard, just classic, great names. And I'm glad they're getting the respect they deserve. But before all that, I want to learn a little bit more about you, Pat. Like, how did this start, this Metal Hall of Fame? Because this is the 7th annual, so there was nothing beforehand. So how did this creation come to be, and how did you found the Metal Hall of Fame?
well, and actually it's funny, it's all started when Deep Purple got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I came home that night, that was obviously several years ago, and I was watching the rerun of it. I was eating a sandwich in my kitchen, watching my small TV, and some of the members are up.
It muted you. I don't know why.
Um,
It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame trying to shut you up.
yeah, right. And as it happened, it was really weird because the camera kind of panned to the audience, right? And Ian Pace is up there with John Lord's widow, they're accepting. And the camera pans to the audience, and half the people are like asleep, their head is on their wrist, nobody's paying attention. And then a couple segments later, I think it was Eazy-E got inducted, and the place went crazy. Well, first of all, being a friend of John Lord and the guys in the band, number one, I really took that personally. And number two, I really thought it was disrespectful that, nobody just really cared to one of the most prolific keyboard players of all time. And, so I thought right then and there, I said, something's got to be done about this for hard rock and metal bands. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to call it the Metal Hall of Fame. And right in that 10-second time frame is when the whole thing came together. And that was in April and in May. And then in January, we had our first show that I put the whole thing together 3,000 miles away, which I do every year because I'm in Jersey. And and off we went. And that's how the whole thing started.
How do you even begin? I guess it might incorporate, because you're a drummer, you've worked with so many different artists. How do you start a foundation for that? Because that's got to be so overwhelming to create this entity. I wouldn't even know where to begin to start, like having that first induction ceremony. Like, where do you even begin? Your Rolodex of rock and roll friends, where do you go from there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thankfully, it did come together fairly quickly and easily, thankfully. I mean, some years, even now, some years are just, very difficult because there's a lot of, well, that's a two-part question, right? So, because I'm going to expand upon that in a minute, because the fans always want to know, well, how does somebody get inducted and what's the process?
Right.
So that'll segue into that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, when I started making phone calls, I said, here's what I wanted to do. I put a board together of some of the top industry executives and some artists. And I said, here's what we need to do to help our genre of music. And nobody's doing it. It's never been done before, but we need to do it. And I sat down and started making some phone calls to the artists and the inductees and then figuring out the planning of it. And then we just went, and it went off like wildfire.
Remind me, who was the very first inductee at the for the Metal Hall of Fame?
Oh, well, was it? Well, of course, we had to honor Ronnie James Dio and Randy Rhoads, right? So Wendy Dio inducted Ronnie. We had Kathy and Kelly Rhoads induct their brother Randy, which was great. We did the Sunset Strip. We did Scorpions. I think we did that year. Yeah, so we had a lot of major people. It was great. It was fantastic, and that would set the precedent for where we are today.
It lives because the Metal Hall of Fame lives online. Is there an actual? Is that the goal? And forgive me, is there like a place you can go for the Metal Hall of Fame, or is it like the ceremony every year and it's kind of yeah, more of like a ceremony sort of thing than rather a place to visit?
Yeah, well, that's a great question too. So we do have the annual gala every year,
Right.
but I also do one-off events, right? So we want to bring the Metal Hall of Fame to fans all over the world. I find that so important. That may not be able to come to Anaheim. So, and since there's millions, tens of millions of fans, more than that, right? Hundreds of millions all over the world. So I like to bring the Metal Hall of Fame on the road. So, for example, we inducted Judas Priest at Wacken in front of 80,000 people. We inducted Anthrax at Heavy Montreal in front of 40,000 people. We just did Halloween several months ago in New York City when they were here. And I find that very important. But we are working on that very important goal of getting the museum. So that's all coming together and working on that.
That's awesome. I think so much of it though is just the name recognition and the respect for the artists that we all know and love, and just the every year's Eddie Trunk is the mouthpiece for it every year about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, how they're leaving people out, how they're getting it wrong. He's one of those champions, so it's very appropriate that he's in, getting in this year, and he's hosting it. Is that kind of awkward, by the way? Say, and now congratulations to the next inductee, me. How's that gonna work? Or was that just like, we need to have Eddie host this also? It doesn't matter if he's being inducted.
Well, of course, myself and the board, we found it very appropriate now that it's Eddie's 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
And not like you, I've been a big fan too, right? I mean, I'm a huge metalhead. Besides playing with a lot of the musicians and stuff and doing tours and whatever, recordings, I'm also a huge fan. So, and it's always a great honor to bring this event to everybody. But Eddie, yeah, what a great year to do it. And I kind of planned it that way. And we're going to have some surprises, some people up there. So it's going to be nice.
It is going to be nice. And just like the names again right away, other than, of course, Eddie, one I wanted to talk to, there's a few I wanted to talk to you about. First one being Mick Mars. I mean, Mick is, of course, an icon with Motley Crue, now not with Motley Crue. What was I guess this kind of goes into the second part of the question you were alluding to before. What's the criteria? Because you look at Mick Mars and there's metal influence, but Motley Crue isn't a metal band, but there's metal influence there. So why Mick? And it could be maybe his solo album now is more towards metal. Yeah, I guess just why Mick and maybe not why Motley Crue, or I guess what the decision was there with the Mick induction this year.
Yeah, well, of course, Mick, so rightfully so, needs to be inducted for sure. So does the band, actually. And that goes to my point I was making a couple minutes ago. and believe it or not, for the fans, they really don't understand the process. And it can be very difficult because some artists just don't care about awards. They want nothing to do with it. They just don't care. And I'm not doing anything, and that's it. So when the fans always ask me, I mean, I get asked all the time, well, how come this one's not? Well, of course we invite them, but they don't want to. They don't believe in awards, and that's unfortunate. But in Mick's case, I think the one thing that makes it especially nice is unfortunately all the issues he's going through with the band now. And that's unfortunate. There's really no need for all those issues, but that's just the way the band, I think, unfortunately dealt their cards to him, and that's not cool.
Yeah, it's just because there was always tension within Motley Crue, but it was always Vince and Tommy, Nikki and Vince, but and Mick always just seemed like everyone loves Mick, and it's just hard because especially for me, I don't have exactly his disease. His is more bone and painful, where I have a neurological disability, which is weakness and balance. But I understand of trying to just live your life and do things when your body is not allowing you to. So a part of me is just always looked up to Mick for that reason. And do you know, and in his case, he may not know, is he going to physically be there because of his health condition, or is it going to be, do you have like a Zoom situation set up for him? Do you know that yet?
We're going to do a video situation because he is unable to attend, unfortunately. It's very, very hard for him to move
Yeah.
around. And that's horrible. I mean, I think here and there he may try to do something, but it's very difficult. So we have to do it with a video. Unfortunately, we wish he could be there in person, but still, what a great honor to have him for sure. And we're also going to be doing, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we're also going to be doing some things around his next drop for his song that's coming out for the album. So that's going to be exciting in a couple more days, few more days.
All right, cool. And I'm gonna put it. This is a pre-recorded podcast, but I like for it to be as live as possible. So this will be out the day we're recording this. And I guess this kind of goes into my same question, where another artist that is just so underrated, and I'm glad he'll never be appreciated by the other Hall of Fame, is Sebastian Bach, that he's being inducted. So, and Sebastian definitely has the heavy metal influence in vocals, but what's the choice between electing Sebastian and not Skid Row? Where does the difference lie? Where's that line go?
Yeah, well, one, of course, the biggest contributing factor to how somebody gets inducted, an artist or a personality gets inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame, is the fan vote. So number one is the fan vote. And then from there, that goes to our committee, and we decide what votes are there for whom, and then we set out that way. And that's it's like a double blind thing where everybody puts their vote in, and it's not just one person or me. So the fans have a big say in a majority of it, actually.
Wow, what the the opposite. This is what a shot in the heart, because it makes me laugh. My wife just left, and she is the biggest Dave Matthews fan. Seen him like 60 times, and they won the fan vote for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's like that didn't even exist. They didn't get in. Nothing happened. So what a slap in the face. So you are the Metal Hall of Fame is completely different, where it is about us, the fans, and who we care about and want to celebrate. So that's fantastic. And I can't wait to hear Sebastian's speech. He's just gonna say something silly, you know. Do you know all these everyone personally that's being inducted, by the way? Or are you meeting people
Yeah,
for the first time? Yeah.
yeah. For the most part, yes, absolutely. I
What
just
was it?
spoke with Sebastian yesterday, actually, and Ripper the night before. So, and Penelope not too far out from here. So,
So let's go to that. Let's go down the line, because I'm lucky. I've been lucky enough to have had Eddie Trunk on the show. Mick Mars, hopefully this year. We'll see what happens. Sebastian is a bucket list, but I've had Tim Ripper Owens on, and one of the things that we spoke about, because it hurts his heart. Like, I understand that he's not Rob Halford. He's not the main story of Judas Priest, but he's a part of their story. He could have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with the rest of the band, but you are giving him the respect that he deserves, like the underrated respect because he is one of the top metal vocalists on every list that comes out. So what can you tell us about Tim and perhaps when you told him about the honor since he's getting into the Metal Hall of Fame?
Yeah, and Ripper is also a dear friend, and I haven't really spoken with him much before that. Although, believe it or not, he performed the very first show with Dio Disciples, so that's kind of cool. And we had a conversation the other night, and we were talking about it. And Ripper is just, first of all, just amazing, right? I was fortunate enough, we have him on the Metal Hall of Fame All-Stars CD. So I was thankful that he did a track there on the CD, and that's for 100% goes to a charity. And so it's guys like Rip, right, who have worked so hard, like Rudy Sarzo comes to mind, right, who have worked so hard to carry that flag for us metalheads and for the music that we love so much that just never nobody, I'm not going to say nobody cares about, but at least on the awards shows and things, they feel that they're just not relevant when in fact they are. They're the basis of the music and the foundation of music that we love so much. So they have to, and that's what we do.
And Ripper's story is metal. Like his story, I know they changed it a bit with Jennifer Aniston and Mark Wahlberg a little bit, but his story is metal. To live that his life singing for a tribute band and then join that band, that story should be immortalized, not
Isn't that
just by
amazing?
Mark Wahlberg. I'm
Right?
sorry,
Isn't
what
it
did you,
amazing?
it is amazing. It is. It's you couldn't make it up if you tried, but that's what actually happened in his life. And he was awesome on the show, very humble human being. And one of the most underrated names that people want to think about, and I'm so glad you are acknowledging her. She should be in the other one, which is I'll keep minimizing whatever it is.
Ah,
Penelope Spheris. She's been on the show. I mean, what an icon with the Decline of Western Civilization series with Wayne's World. I mean, just those two, in addition to other movies she's directed, she gets it. She was there at the forefront of some of the biggest movements in rock and roll. So it's just another like I'm glad that she deserves an award. I mean, I'm glad that she is not one of those that isn't attending and doesn't think she deserves awards because she deserves to be acknowledged. So what can you tell us about Penelope and why she deserves to be in the Metal Hall of Fame?
well, first of all, Penelope, she's a sweetheart, number one. And
Yeah.
man, she just kick ass, right?
Yeah.
She kicks some metal ass. And besides Wayne's World, which was awesome, she also directed some videos for Megadeth, Night Ranger. She also did segments for Saturday Night Live. So she is a Decline, of course, a Western Civilization series. Unbelievable. Just iconic, especially for our genre of music.
I know. Especially because I like the whole series, the first one being about punk, but that second one, the metal years. I mean, it says it right there in the name. And it's just that is mandatory viewing. I think for any metalhead to watch that because you can see success stories and you can just see like, wow, these people never made it. Just what a glimpse, a time capsule that she just provided. So yeah, it's not just the musicians, not just the radio people, but the directors, the people that were there when these genres were formed in the early years. I know it's their surprise guests, but is there any other names that are on the tip of your tongue that you maybe want to say, but you don't have to say right now? Or what could we maybe expect for performances? Anything you're allowed to hint at us?
Sure. Well, for the performances, so there'll be some surprise performances, but I do know, of course, one of Hollywood's favorite bands, London. You familiar with them?
They've had the immediate analogy that came into my brain was Menudo. Aren't they like a kind of like a Menudo of that scene where they keep changing members? Of course, Nikki Sixx, famously from London, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So-
They've had a lot of guys and a lot of major players in and out of that band, so they'll be performing,
okay.
which is great. I know Vinny Appice is going to be there, and I believe he's going to be playing with Carlos and Bjorn Anglin from Yngwie Malmsteen, the bass player. I know we're going to have Kings of Thrash with Dave Ellefson and Chris Poland and the guys. They're going to be playing. A lot of the other all-stars, Joel Holkstra is going to be performing. So we have some nice things set up for sure. That'll be a lot of fun.
Very cool. Is this because of course people are in the area can go and tickets are on sale right now, but are you going to broadcast it? I don't know about live, but after the fact, you're going to put out a DVD. How can others watch this if they're not going to be in attendance?
Yeah, we had a deal originally, which we did some of the other shows with Amazon, but we're going to be moving, I think, over to Roku in the near future. So I believe it'll be up there for sure.
Oh, okay. Live or after the fact?
After the fact, yeah.
Oh, okay. No,
It'll
that's
be
great.
recorded live, you know.
Oh
Sure.
yeah, well, just like the other people do. Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the other people, I recently put up because I've interviewed like Joel Perisman and so like the president and other people at the Hall of Fame and of course being what's that?
Have you ever spoke with Jan?
Jan? No, no, the one that was let go and fired
Yeah.
for saying all those ridiculous things. No, do you have opinions on him? Like, because I had an off-air conversation with one of the biggest names ever like voices in music. Let's just say, from the 60s, 70s, whatever that should be in there. And I'll just do him a favor, not say his name.
Sure.
But just knowing that because he thought the initial idea of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was stupid, of being like, how can you have a place to keep rocking? And I don't know, he's probably just speaking existentially. And ever since, just because he said that, Jan has kept him out. This very deserving person. So it's kind of messed up that this person kind of had such a stronghold over, people's lives essentially, or being acknowledgement or getting their flowers before they pass away. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts that you want to share on him being, saying those racist and sexist things and then being let go from the Hall of Fame? You don't have to. I know you could
No,
say,
listen, I don't mind at all. He should have been for what happened. Unfortunately, those things were said. Um, but it also comes down to when you have an organization such like the Metal Hall of Fame and theirs, and I'm sure others, no matter what it is, you always have a board to answer to. You have the director, even some of the music stores, right? Like Guitar Center, for example, or Sam Ash. There's always, well, Sam Ash is a family-owned, wonderful business, by the way. By the way, that's the other thing we're going to be doing. Just to go off track for a second. We're going to be doing a great tribute to Sammy Ash, who unfortunately passed away, and he was one of
oh,
our
that's nice.
some years ago. So we're going to have some. That's going to be a very nice moment as well at the gala on January 24th. But yeah, I mean, there's always somebody that has to answer to a board. And in that case, the board did the right thing, of course, for sure.
Yeah, no, you can't deal with that. No, I never interviewed him. The other one I was thinking of was Greg Harris, the
Yeah.
president over there. And I
Uh-huh.
asked about this, of course, if you weren't able to tell just by the name of the podcast and the GNR memorabilia on my head and behind me, it's a Guns N' Roses themed podcast. I use these 6 degrees of GNR bacon, as I call it, to connect to everything. So just a few related things there. Because when I spoke to both Greg and Joel and asked about the night Guns N' Roses was inducted and how Green Day almost filled in until Miles Kennedy came in at last minute. And there's just always been a few situations where they try to reunite a band or an artist and it doesn't come to fruition. But I'm thinking now for you, perhaps now that Axl and Slash are together, and it just got me thinking because I know Guns N' Roses isn't metal, but you're inducting Sebastian, you're inducting Mick Mars, and it's kind of the same with GNR where they have metal influences. I asked my listeners where there are metal-ish songs, more of the Chinese Democracy era. So has it ever occurred to you maybe that the Metal Hall of Fame could do it right and maybe induct Guns N' Roses and you would have Axl and Slash and get a proper ceremony for them? Is that something that's crossed your mind at all?
Oh, sure, of course. And our tagline is the most important night in hard rock and heavy metal. So for sure, we have hard rock influences
Okay.
and inductees. And that's something that I think we'd want to work on too. But again, as you just mentioned, the hard part is when you have bands that need to reunite, who's allowed to be up there, who's not. We've been told by bands too, well, we're going to have such and such and such and such, but such and such are not allowed to come or be part of it. Unfortunately, you get that too.
That's got to be, is that one of the most frustrating things about what you do when you're like, oh, we have this great opportunity, but for whatever reason, the ball's in their court and they're just not, they're not playing ball. They don't want to do this.
That happens. Just like Deep Purple did it with Richie Blackmore, same thing.
Yeah,
Maybe
for
you're
sure.
supposed to say that, but it's out now.
Yeah. I mean, but it's again, it's just something that's always brought up every year when you see the Hall of Fame in my world to be like, man, knowing that they've been, they made up after the fact. At the time, Axl wrote this whole long letter that why he didn't want to be inducted. So it just seems like maybe that this could be something that he would want to do. That the Metal Hall of Fame is kind of what rock and roll should be. It's kind of like an outsider, and that seems like more of a, I don't know. So I'm hoping that you do it. I would love to see Guns N' Roses or Axl himself be inducted one of these years.
Me too, for sure I would. But again, you get some of those artists that just they don't want to take any part in anything, and they just really don't care about anything, unfortunately. And that I feel sorry for myself as a fan and the fans themselves. That's not cool.
Yeah, because I don't want you to say any names and get anyone like in trouble. But how about like maybe names that you haven't gotten to yet that you're looking already like ahead and being like, you know what, I hope this person gets inducted. Like you haven't gotten a no from them yet, but they're on your list for the maybe next year or 5 years. Anyone that you're already thinking about, or is it all this year you're focused?
Yeah, I know next year, and I guess I can say this. I know next year we're looking at, I already spoke with Zach Wild and Pantera. So that's coming up for next year. Hopefully, that works out as scheduled now, but we'll see about that. Yeah. So working on that right there because the process you just start immediately from what
So,
next.
okay, so you're already working on next year already, even though 20.
Because you have the touring schedules and who's available where. And now don't forget with COVID, that's the problem with NAMM that has been an issue for many artists, especially this year, because now everybody's back. I think I can safely say in full swing now over the past several years because of COVID,
Basically. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But a lot of guys are out on tour, and I think a lot of the dynamics have changed now. So it's going to be interesting to see who's on tour when and who's available when.
Yeah, it is tricky. While everyone's still back in full swing, people have changed how they travel and just when they travel, and it's just it's a different world. Full swing, but it's a different swing. I guess it's just because I'm here working from home. Before COVID, I would do my podcast from where I work at iHeart, but I'm able to work from home and interview the CEO and founder of the Metal Hall of Fame from the comfort of my own home. So it's some good things come out of it, but I think it is great that right now that so many things are virtual to be able to have this thing online. And I'm sure, are you going to be posting clips in all your socials throughout the night, uh, kind of like a live experience, like they do with the red carpet?
And yeah, especially with the red carpet. The red carpet's like totally out of control. This year, I know we're going to have a lot of major movie producers, television producers, and sports stars in attendance. So we always get some kind of entertainment component outside of music that who are metalheads. I know our association with Supercross, which is huge. We're going to have some of the top riders from Supercross there and the top executives from Feld Entertainment. So that's such a great honor too. And we're going to be doing some. I'm going to be announcing shortly. Well, actually, I can say this that I'm going to be at the Supercross show at Angel Stadium on Saturday. I think that's the 27th, and we'll be in attendance there with the Metal Hall of Fame booth and right as part of Supercross. So that's going to be a lot of fun for 65,000 fans, and I'm sure most of them, and I know, are metalheads. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's cool. I bet you didn't imagine that you would be doing this when you were a little Pat metalhead in New Jersey, just growing up. I'm not too far away from you. I'm in Forest Hills, Queens. I mean, it's far. You know how with the traffic, but it's not really that far. Uh, do you remember your first metal show? Just curious what really injected you with the love for heavy metal and rock and roll.
Well, my very first concert was Kiss. That was 79, that was awesome. So I guess we could say at least rock. Metal, of course, I've, been to all the shows. Dio, which was great. Purple, uh, when they reunited for Perfect Strangers in '84, that was a great show. Of course, Ian Gillan. I'm a huge Deep Purple fan. So, and Sabbath. So Ian Gillan with the Born Again tour, that kicked ass. That was great. So it's been a lot. Yeah.
All right, very cool. No, all these bands that just deserve recognition, and we metalheads, we who love the hard rock and metal genre, we thank you for doing this because it's a frustration every year of just not just like, okay, who's left out, because there's only a select that can get in. I'm a sports guy. It could be the same thing for the Baseball Hall of Famer. You talk about it, but when you're not even of the genre. Like it's just so frustrating when people are not of the genre getting in over people like it's just it doesn't make sense over Bad Company. Hey, bless her, Dolly Parton. I know she made a rock album now, but that doesn't make sense to me. That's just it's so it's that's what's one of the most frustrating things is let it be ours. You're making this ours. You have made this ours. This Metal Hall of Fame because the other one I think is just I mean, Eddie Trunk has gone on plenty of rants about it. It's just it's frustrating as a rock fan. We're always the word I used before. We're the underdog. We're always kind of fighting for why our music is our favorite, and we shouldn't have to at the home base, at the home of what's is supposed to celebrate it. So it's just awesome that the Metal Hall of Fame is doing it right and is celebrating it right. And I would be remiss is, do you have a Guns N' Roses story? Because I know none of them are being inducted or nothing directly. I couldn't find anything online. Do you have a 6 degrees of GNR Bacon? Have you met any of the guys or seen them in concert? Any hidden Guns N' Roses story?
GNR, no, not really.
All right.
No,
That's
not really.
That's fair. That's fair. I will ask you this though, as the last one, because I want to put, in addition to just this full episode, I'm going to start to promote things on Patreon. So, do you have like a story, whatever you want, like one of your maybe your favorite stories, and I'll just edit the story out and put it out on Patreon itself. But like one of your favorite stories that you like to tell, uh, just for your career. Do you have like when you're at a dinner party and like, oh, this is my go-to story. Do you have any of those?
Oh, I got lots of those.
Okay.
But I could say, I don't know. I mean, doesn't necessarily have to be in the genre of music, but I saved Ringo Starr from being assassinated one year. Yeah. So there's a lot of different stories. I don't even know which one to pick, but Ringo, of course, is up there for sure.
Oh, I love that. So if you want to hear the stories of Pat, his favorite Deep Purple moment and saving Ringo's life, that'll be on Patreon exclusive. But we wrap up the entire episode of Appetite for Distortion now. Pat Gesualdo, thank you so much for your time. Really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for all the hard work that you do, and I hope we get to do this again.
Oh, you know what? I would love to. Maybe we do it after the gala. That would be wonderful. Of course, if you're going to be out there, let me know. But thank you, and thank you to all the fans because they're the ones that make this possible. And the fan support is everything. Without them, we have nothing. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You may know it might have been earlier in your life, but I have an 8-month-old, so travel is limited.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
However, the previously mentioned Dave Matthews, my wife has already made plans for us to go to London next year to go see Dave. I mean, I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay in the hotel with the kid, but she's to see Dave Matthews. Oh, a story for another time. A story for another time. Pat, thank you so much. This does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next one? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.